extra Patreon awesome thing. Take one.
Click.
And take only. Hi, Amanda. Edward. Model 9 behind the camera. And we decided to do this as an extra for the webcasts. But not just for the webcast, but like as an extra thing for all the patrons, because we can, and so we are.
Why not?
Why not? And Edward and I have now done a bunch of interviews together with journalists just about the record and stuff, but this is better and different because we know that we're just talking to you guys. And also, this is the first real record, like real record of new original songs that I've made using Patreon, because they don't really count the Dad record because that was a record of covers, and so in my head it's not quite as real. I mean, it was amazing, but and I guess like when we started making this record, you didn't even really know what Patreon was.
No, it's true. It took me a while to figure it out. I thought it was something like Kickstarter at first, and then I realised it's actually something completely different to that. I actually really like the concept. I think it's very cool because it is people actually supporting the artist rather than pre-ordering something, basically.
Yeah, they're supporting the artists,
yeah,
but for everything,
yeah,
instead of just one record.
Yeah.
So I have a question that I've been waiting to ask you until we were doing this, because I don't know the answer, but I'm really curious about it, which is you love Bandcamp.
Yes.
And you use it all the time, and like you can find the entire Legendary Pink Dots discography, which is gazillions of records on Bandcamp.
It's excessive, yeah.
And what changed? Like if you look at the Legendary Pink Dots, which is a band that's been around for 30 plus years and put out 100 records, what's the difference between what your life was like before Bandcamp and what your life was like after Bandcamp?
I'll be honest, I think it's Bandcamp kind of saved the band in many ways. It was you have to adapt to the changes that come about, because first of all, in the 90s we were selling, well, up until the midway we were basically selling about 30,000 records on some of the releases. It was, you could say, it was a good time. And then there was gradually trickling away, and the whole download culture thing that basically really harmed us big time. We didn't have a set record company.
When would have that been? Like when did you?
This would be somewhere in the 2000s. It really began to the point where you almost on some releases, on many releases, you're talking about sort of like hundreds of people buying it rather than thousands.
Mm.
And we could still tour, and for that period, I guess until the mid-2000s, or maybe late 2000s, we existed thanks to touring.
Mm.
It was like a very meagre existence, we very hand to mouth, and we literally could spend or invest nothing at all, because every cent went basically into paying the rent or something like that. But it was becoming untenable after 2008 when there was a big financial collapse. Even the live stuff started becoming hard. We played some shows for like €400 or something like that. People weren't coming to the shows so much, and it's just like, oh, this is a real crisis. Where does this end?
Well, I have a question too, which is when you were playing all these live shows, like especially in the late 90s and the early 2000s, was a lot of the support you were getting, the money you were making from selling CDs at the shows?
Selling CDs at the shows.
That's where a lot of money came.
But that's what changed in 2008. People in Europe, at least. I mean, America was always good, but you can't tour America every year.
Yeah.
In Europe, it really did dry up quite badly until we need Bandcamp, and we tried it for about a year, just to see, does this actually work for us? And we thought, well, actually, there's a lot of potential here, and by now, I'd say it's keeping us alive, because you do very much manage your own page, and I take great pride in it, quite honestly. I actually do the page myself.
Yeah, it's a beautiful Bandcamp page, which is like, you know, which you can't take for granted.
And you know, we sometimes we do these releases which are just for Bandcamp. It's like I will just be working for a weekend on like a small mini album or something. I think, oh, I love this. I want people to hear it
right now. Yeah, and this is the thing I love about the Patreon too. It's like, I used to do things like that because I could. Like, the internet made it possible to make a thing and then put it out in that moment, or the next day, or the next week, or whatever. But you knew that if you were doing that, you weren't going to get paid. You were just going to have the instant gratification of having made something and putting it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or putting it, you know, I mean, basically on YouTube is where I would do things like that. And now, with Bandcamp or with Patreon, I mean, Patreon is even like one step beyond Bandcamp, because even with Bandcamp, you can put something up, but you're not even guaranteed that anyone's necessarily going to buy it.
That's true.
With Patreon, if I can come up with something and put it out, as long as I feel morally okay about going, boop, and I'm going to charge you. And that actually, I have to say, is the most difficult part of Patreon for me. It's like the constant struggle of, like, am I allowed to do this? Like, oh my God, am I allowed to do this again? Like, I keep, you know, and I'm like the person who wrote the fucking book, and I still sit there going like, oh God, I'm going to charge all these people all this money.
You should learn to develop the art of asking, shouldn't you?
God damn it!
I mean, you came up with a concept, so you should be able to do it.
Right, but this isn't even asking. This is like, okay, I've asked you and you've approved, but then I go in and without your permission, charge you. And here's the thing, it's like, and this is something worth asking you about, or worth talking about, which is, like, you could spend 6 months on a song, or you could make a concept album in a day. And what makes something worth paying for? Is it time? Is it energy? Is it inspiration? You know, if you happen to come up with the most amazing song in the world, but it only takes you 5 minutes to record, are you still allowed to charge a bunch of fuckers $40,000 for it? And these are the things that keep me up at night, because it's there's obviously no answer. It's subjective.
There is no answer to that. I mean, it basically, as long as you put your heart and soul and your passion into it, it's all, you know, if somebody wants to reward you for that, then I think it's absolutely fair. I mean, you talk about Patreon. Why you're talking about Patreon now is as if you feel a little bit guilty.
I always feel a little bit guilty.
I
should always feel a little bit guilty. I feel guilty that I even get to make a living as an artist.
But the point is, I've watched you working on Patreon, and it's a lot more than just putting up a piece of music or a cartoon or something like that, or a video once in a while. You are daily working on this. You are writing blogs and communicating on a level that actually I never could do. So it's a full-time thing. You're not asking money for every email you send out, and you're working constantly on it. That takes a special.
And that's the leap. Actually, is like, you know, the money that comes in is just paying for everything, and the art happens to be like the mushroom that you see above the ground with this entire network of like costs and time and energy and staff and blogs and all the things that just need to happen and take time and money and energy. And then the art is like the point of exchange. But actually, I struggled with this. I thought about, I'm not even looking in the camera, I'm looking at Marla because she knows about this, because she's been following me and has been on the Patreon probably since the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So I thought really hard about doing a monthly just set salary, which you can do. Patreon, you can either charge by the piece of content, which is whenever you want, basically, or by the month. And I really struggled with that. But I was afraid that if I did it by the month, I really would feel guilty. If I didn't work for 3 months because I wanted to go have a baby, or I wanted to put out a bunch of stuff in 1 month, and it felt too weird.
Yeah, I mean, you should do what suits, the way it suits you. I mean, you cannot say that now. There's a lot coming. You're producing a lot of art, a lot of things that people can get their teeth into and enjoy. And I think there are things that are coming out that actually probably wouldn't be possible, or at least wouldn't be as high quality as they are if it wasn't for Patreon, because
the money wouldn't exist. Yes, so the main thing was to just wrap this up by saying thank you to all of you guys for patronizing and making all this weirdness possible. I think by the time the record wraps up, we will have... one thing I actually forgot to mention is now that we're heading towards the end of the album cycle, if you weren't on the Patreon back last fall, we actually thinged one of the songs just to the patrons, kind of in secret, just to free up some money.
Oh, when
do you remember that? Yeah, we put out Rainbow's End like way back in, I think it was September or October, just because we could. And I asked permission, and I was like, we need some capital to keep everything rolling. Are you guys okay with that? And everyone was like, go for it. And
it was great.
It was great, and it meant that we could keep things running and pay everybody and get ready for tour. So between that and the record coming out and the videos and the webcast,
it's actually really had quite a life, actually.
Yeah, and it's also a lot of money, and it's your money that has basically kept these two musicians, and now Patrick and Yoop, the tour manager, and my manager and Haley and everyone who's working for the team.
It made it possible. It made something very beautiful possible. The thing is, people are coming there and they're loving what they're seeing and hearing. It's like, it's a very inspired.
Yeah, and it's also why I'm so glad we're doing the webcast, which is for the thousands of people on the Patreon who couldn't make this tour because we were only playing 18 cities or 19 cities. Being able to thing the webcast and really record the show beautifully instead of with one shitty camera so that everyone can see it feels really important. So you can actually watch what ended up blossoming, because the tour is actually I don't want to say it's better than the record, but the songs live have taken on this whole new life.
They've gone on from where they that's how, in a way, that's how every song should always be.
Yeah, it should
make
a song,
it should live. If it turns into something that is repetitive, in a way you can say, well, we've repeated that exactly how we did it the night before, so it's done.
Yeah. So, any last words? A massive thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully all 11,000 of you get to see this, and it's amazing, and thank you. Whether it's $1 or $10 or whatever you were giving, we appreciate it. The artists say thank you.